button is the best example to explain things. So we have what I call sharp, which is extremely square, there is no radius. We have tiny radius, medium radius, and full radius. These are the regular styles of buttons in terms of outer shape. And so the first one is strict or sharp, meaning a lot of people will use this for something that is extremely corporate, something like a dashboard or Excel, something that is related to big corporations, something that isn't funny, that doesn't need to be friendly. It just needs to work. So it's a square. There is no visual design added to it. The two in the middle, so the first one, the 4 pixel radius, is the big companies that want to have a bit of friendliness but not too much. So these are like new design for big company, new design for luxury. They just round their corner with a 2 pixel or 4 pixel thing. Not so much. We are not friendly. We're just trendy-ish. That's this level. These level here, the 8-point radius usually, is startups. So it's, we are friendly, don't worry, but we still need to convey that we are professional, and so we have sharp-ish angle. We have this tiny radius to still showcase that we are friendly, but still we are professional. And then the last one is just, fuck it, we're friendly. We're a friendly bunch of people, so that is allocated for startups, but also for kids interface and for things that needs to convey like accessibility, friendly to use, easy to understand, not like they are organic shapes. So these are the 4 base shapes for buttons that are related to the association that most people will do in their head when they see some types of shape. In these two, you can go with the square shape. Doesn't change anything, it's just a trendier shape compared to the current 4 radius. That doesn't mean it's a good or bad decision. However, rounded corners, like fully rounded, are organic shapes which will blend in a bit, not exactly, but blend in a bit. Very sharp corner will blend in a lot. And so breaking the corners make the human eye pick up on these tiny modifications and notice that, well, these have changed. And they have a bit of a different feel to them. So that's one of the reasons. Let me go back because you said a lot of things. If you have seen a combination of square and rounded, if it's related to buttons, that is a mistake. So remember, if you have one style of button, please, as much as possible, like stick to just one style of buttons. So if it's square, it's square everywhere. If it's rounded, it's rounded everywhere, but it's not rounded and sharp and square in here. That doesn't work. So stick to one. Try to stick with one style for one type of element. So don't have sharp button paired with rounded buttons with square buttons on the same interface. That makes no sense. However, if you have a sharp button paired with a rounded input, potentially that could work, but I wouldn't recommend. But if you have a rounded button and a square input, that kind of makes sense. And then you said if you have children, you prefer furniture with square core. Yes. So we can do the exercise again. You got dribble, you got popular, and then you click here. So here you have square core-ish. It's not exactly square core, that is a 60% square core right here, and that's a fully rounded buttons. So the cards and the outlines of things have a bit of a square core, and then the buttons themselves have a fully rounded element. As you can see, specifically on this side right here, you have a very friendly illustration. Nothing is square and a line, and you have this tiny arrows that is like hand drawn with things that are just floating around on the screen with the gradients. And this is a friendly-ish type of content, which, because they have these paired with these fully rounded stuff, it's right at the middle of needs. We are very friendly. We want to be adopted fast. We want to be easy to use and seems accessible. But we still are talking about money, so we need to be professional. So there is a lot of professionalism in the color scheme. The blue is a very professional and banking, like associated with banking and wealth. That's another discussion, but this is a thing. And then you can see the inputs here are very ish compared to the rest, with a tiny amount of radius, which that's just to make sure that they are not extremely sharp. So that's one that is in between the two. Then you have this one that is using the same behavior. So you have the fully rounded buttons, more square so that's 100% square for the cards and the elements. And everything seems more friendly, mainly because of the colors and the card style, the fact that all the icons are circled with very rounded shapes. So that's very accessible and very friendly. And then you have these ones, which are startups. It's the startup blue-purple colors that a lot of companies have. It's used on most of the UI kit that you will find for startups. It's also used for most of the dashboard UI kits that you will find. So these colors are used, and then the radius that you can see are tiny radius. But yeah, so this is the in between these two. So it's not exactly fully rounded, so it's very in the middle. I guess we are at 4.6 on this one, but overall that's the base thing. You can see at the top that we have a large button, but you also have a fab, right, or fob, depending on how you want to pronounce it. It's a rounded thing that is floating on the page, specifically for mobile. And if you are an Android user, you know what I'm talking about. If you're an iPhone user, it's usually less common, but it's still something that exists. So it's like a floating element that is usually located at the bottom right of the screen, and it expands to show you more content. So sometimes you have this button as the only fully rounded element of your interface. That makes a lot of sense because it's the current behavior of that element, so that makes sense. Here you have something that is really trendy. So as you can tell, it's a bank again, but they are trying to attract us, this generation right here. So we have very rounded elements, very friendly scribbles, very like trendy stars here and there. They use glass morphism to make sure that they are on top of the design trends. I'm expecting, when I'm seeing this, I'm expecting their cards to be transparent, like plastic transparent. I have one that is similar to this. If I have it here, where is it? It has the transparent edge. And so I'm guessing they would have the same thing for the entirety of the card rather than just the band. So that could be amazing in terms of design and everything. But most of the icons have a very high level of radius, but not exactly fully rounded. So that means, same thing as I said earlier, we are extremely friendly, but still we can be professional because we have square things here and there. So that's the main takeaway here. And then on this one, you have a very sharp thing. It seems that they have a 1 pixel radius, but that may be just because the quality of the shot is not that good. But this is showcasing trust. Sharpness is for buttons specifically, and for elements is like professionalism and corporate and very trustworthy and all of that. And then you have these arrows that are trendy right now, as always, here and there to just create a bit of a more fun interface, but overall extremely sharp, extremely corporate and trustworthy. That's the main goal here from what I'm seeing in terms of the feeling that I have when I'm looking at these designs.